Morning. So I came to Austria on a skiing holiday, but unfortunately, before I got my ski legs back, a bit of a fall, torn a ligament in my shoulder. I've never had an injury skiing before, despite some of the most wayward skiing you've ever seen. So anyway, we're having a lovely stay at the Hotel Alpina. I'm going to try and get a refund on my ski pass. As you can see, it's a lovely day here in Hochgurgl in Austria, and but not for me quite. However, I'm going to go to the motorcycle museum and meet my mates for luncheon, and then we'll have a look around the museum. Also, I'm rather excited to realise that just down the road in Salden there is where they filmed the Spectre Land Rover chase, and there's a museum there. So we'll go and do that tomorrow, I think. Ta-ta for now. So folks, here we are at Hochgurgl, or the cross station, I believe. And as I pan up, look at the view. Look at the view. It's a lovely day here in Austria. And behind me now, we have the motorcycle museum, which I'm about to enter. So here I am in the museum, and I'm taken immediately by this contraption, which, how safe would one feel on such a thing? More contraptions away, which look moderately more sensible, if they were ever built. Bombardier, they must have been built. Bombardier are definitely a thing nowadays. So yeah, good old Bombardier. They had a few crazy ideas, but they got going. So see you later. Yeah, just to finish off on the Bombardier front, I'm sure it's Bombardier that make skidoos, amongst other things. And that's sort of skidoo-ish, isn't it? They finally got there in the end. So you join me here in the motorcycle museum, and I've come across a rather fascinating chap here called, or maybe even here, called Max Reich. So Max Reich was an author, and he travelled the world, a lot in the desert, Sahara, etc., on motorbikes and in cars. And he sort of, by the sounds of it, invented the caravan, is what I'm reading in the little bits of English that are here. But there's an Indian motorcycle, which is an American bike. So a reminder of my little American road trip a little while ago. But Max, apart from writing lots of books about travel, he also, whilst he was about it, founded the Spa, presume the Spa shopping organisation in Austria as well. So he's quite a handy fella to know, isn't he? And he travelled all over the Sahara on these Puck Saharas, as they're called, of which there's one over here. And there's a video running constantly. I've no idea what it's talking about, but there's one of his motorcycles being craned onto a ship. And here is one of his actual bikes, pith helmet included. Imagine crossing the desert on that, a proper explorer. And here's Max topping up his van with a bit of petrol. And here's his Opel Caravan. Actually says it on the bonnet. The Opel Caravan. And it has a rather interesting kinetic rope arrangement here with a spring for pulling him out of the dunes. So yeah, good old Max Reich. And I'm also reminded down here, and I will leave that for another time. I'll come back to that one. So here's Max again. Got into a little bit of difficulty, so he's found a local elephant to pull him out of the mire. And here he is again in Africa, and this is the bike in that photograph. Wow. Is it possible to get any more stuff piled on a motorcycle? I very much doubt it. Some guy. And as we saw him in the photograph earlier filling his truck with petrol, here's the truck. And look, he's got a little table with a typewriter for sort of recording all the information that he would later pass on to the reading public. So there's quite a bit of motorsport in the Tyrol. I'm starting looking at these rather interesting. I'm going to call them ice wheels. Clearly they've got some nasty looking spikes on. And apart from torturing people, I can't think of anything else they might be good for than clinging on to icy roads. But as we go down here, there's various photographs. There's a photograph somewhere of a motor race involving Jochen Rindt. Remember him? I think he might have. Did he drive for Lotus? Anyway, he's a famous Grand Prix driver. There's a Lotus Cortina there. And various, various vehicles and names. Another one of Jochen Rindt down here. Yeah, good old Jochen. And if we go a bit further up here and look at these bikes, of which there are many, there's one here, MV Agusta. And crikey, the name's gone on MV Agustas. It'll come to me in a minute, but perhaps not. I'm back. MV Agusta. No, I'm not. John Surtees, MV Agusta. I think he definitely won the motorcycle he was a Grand Prix racer on motorcycles. And I'm sure he raced for MV Agusta at some point, if not all of the point. But he's the only motorcycle GP rider that then switched to cars and won the car GP as well. And he's probably be the only man that'll ever do that. So yeah, good old John Surtees. So I've just come upstairs from the little bit of the motorcycle museum you've just seen. And wow. Quite a lot of motorbikes. And other things, other exciting things. So we've got the early days of motorcycling here, and we have the Roper steam cycle replica. And thinking you wouldn't want to ride bare arse on that to London. But powered transport. And for all you Porsche fans, look at that for an outlook. A sort of pretty much original old 911 and the mountains in the background. But also rather interesting, and especially if you're Men in Black fans. Many of you are. Look at that. Talk about reinventing the wheel. That's an actual thing. I don't really know whether I'd fancy riding it, not with my record. But yeah, there you go. So a quick pan round the Motorcycle Museum upper deck. Those are all the 1920s bikes down there. Many British manufacturers, Norton, AJS, all sorts of names that are recognisable, if not to you normally when you read them or hear them. There's also one or two other interesting little bits and pieces in here. I mean, there's just bikes for as far as the eye can see. So any bike enthusiast is massively at home here, but little heartwarming machine behind me, the mighty Unimog 406, and my uncle used to have one of these, and I used to go in it when I was nubbut a lad, because he used to lead all his sugar beet to York Beet factory with one of these with a twin-axled Weeks trailer on the back. It was cutting-edge stuff at the time. nobody had Unimogs in the UK. Wasn't I a lucky chap to ride about in one of those? And they've got many, many gear sticks, as hopefully I'll be able to show you. Lots of gear sticks, lots of levers. But yeah, the original high-speed tractor. The Unimog. There's quite a few motor vehicles, more normal motor vehicles in here, and this is a Ford TT. I'm guessing that's based on the Model T, but it's a truck from 1918. So First World War era, and it's carrying a First World War era motorcycle from America. Then we've got the Ape Italian three-wheeler with Italian motorcycle in the rear. Various other transport devices of an Italian nature. Motor Guzzi, indeed, for the would-be vineyard operator. And what else have we got? A Chevrolet pickup. Stella. Oh, and he's got an Indian motorcycle in the rear compartment. But I don't know if you remember, but when I was in Kingman, there was one of these parked outside my favourite dinner, my favourite American dinner in Kingsman. Strange but true. Now, I'm not a massive American motorcycle fan, but if you are, then clearly you're not going to be disappointed with the display of Harleys. Look at those beauties, if indeed that's what you're into. Sure, there's a gold wing at the back there, and there's a three-wheeler. Whatever boats your float. So this is a rather interesting place to be. This is the homage to the Brough Superior. So the Brough Superior, and namely the SS100 here, was named the SS100 because it was guaranteed to do 100 miles an hour. Lawrence of Arabia had one of those. He might have had more. And he famously raced an aeroplane on it. I can't remember if he actually won. I think he might have done, actually. The crazy fool. Another little interesting story. My outlaws, the Lund family, Claire, Grandma Lund, her father worked for George Brough and rode Brough Superiors, and I've seen a certificate that he rode one of these beauties on Morecambe Sands, I think at a tad over 100 miles an hour. More impressively than that, he rode one with a sidecar on at 97, if memory serves. However, he was a madman on a motorcycle in his younger days. He also raced the TT and won it on Norton's, but he rode Brough Superiors. And here, that's an SS80, so I'm guessing that was guaranteed to drive at 80 miles an hour, which unheard of speeds. Back in the day, 1931, 1939 for the SS100, and then there's a rather interesting homage to the 100, like a custom bike built in France, but it's sort of like a modern take on an SS100 Brough Superior, which is quite a nice thing if that floats your boat. And some race bike with Brough on it over there, but yeah, the Brough Superiors. So yeah, and Lawrence obviously rode his in the desert as well. So here are some of the 1950s and maybe even earlier races. Pictures in the background of men and machine in perfect harmony, and there's an incredible number of manufacturers, but a heck of a lot from the UK. And here is the Norton Manx. So named because it was successful upon the Manx Island on the Isle of Man. And then there's various other things. Warmix, whatever that is. Motor Prilla, lots and lots of names you've never heard of, and probably lots that you have. DKW, Rudge, UK based. Coventry, more Nortons, as with these we're going earlier and earlier. We're into the 30s now with these machines here. So, and they get more like bikes with engines cobbled on them as we go earlier and earlier. Now into the 1920s here. And then we go into the 10s and the 02s. Here we have a gentleman's bicycle with an engine cobbled to it. It's French, of course. You can't really expect a lot more. But there's every kind of, I mean, there's even a wooden bicyclette here without engine, but then there's one with an engine. Wooden. It's definitely worth a visit if you're in any way interested in machinery. And also, they've got a little display of micro cars. So, Messerschmitt. So, 1956. So, Messerschmitt weren't allowed to make aeroplanes anymore after the Second World War, funnily enough. So they cunningly started making cars that look like aeroplanes, slightly. And then we have the Little Fiat 500, but perhaps more interestingly, we have the Isetta bubble car. Who'd have thought? You'll recognise the badge on the bonnet if you don't know who made it already. A little company in Germany called BMW. Whatever became of them? And just to round off in the motorcycle museum, there's a few little gems like this rather quite gorgeous Ferrari, complete with outriding Ferraris. Bit of badge engineering perhaps going on. I don't know if they were made by Ferrari or just badged up by, I'm guessing, some Italian manufacturer. But in the middle, a 275 GTS from 1965. Lovely. One last little look around. Wow. And another little anecdote. I think only less than 10 years ago, this place burned to the ground and every motorcycle in it, and they've rebuilt it and filled it with motorcycles again. I dread to think how much money's worth of motorcycles there are in here. But they're everywhere. Yeah, it's quite wow. Quite wow. And as if the motorcycle museum wasn't interesting enough, it's built around the lift here. And you see the cable cars when they come in, and you can see the fascinating system. Here comes one now. See the red skid here? Disconnects the cable car from the cable, and then these rubber wheels down here are progressively driven slower and slower and slower. So they decelerate the cable car itself, down to a snail's pace over the other side here. Always fascinated me as this. So here are the wheels at the other end. See how slowly the last ones are going, and so the cars go round on these wheels as the skiers get in, and then the wheels get progressively faster and faster and faster until they match the cable car to the speed of the cable, and then it clips back on again up to the side. So we've got in here, out here. So if we just wait a moment, here comes an in, disconnect on the slot, and off goes a fast one that's just accelerated up and clipped back on again. So rather frustratingly, unable to ski as I am, look at conditions. What a day, what a day. and what a place. Here we are in Hochgurgl or thereabouts, and at the cross station with the motorcycle museum there, and a restaurant, and it's quite a fantastic building actually, in a very fantastic and fabulous place. Over in Hochgurgl, that's what I needed to say. We're just up from Hochgurgl. Beautiful.